I'm Kristen Davidson and I'm a pelvic physical therapist. I'm doing these mom bod videos because so many women postpartum have tons of questions about getting back to exercise. They don't want to do too much, but they're ready to get back to their normal activities. So you can use these videos as a guide to help yourself strengthen a little bit to get back to those normal activities, obviously within your own fitness abilities. Before starting some of these exercises, make sure your body is feeling good. Make sure you're 6 weeks postpartum from a vaginal delivery or 8 weeks after your C-section, basically that you've been cleared by your physician to start exercise. This video, the fundamentals, you can start this at any time because I'm going to just cover some basic posture and basic movements that will help you in this postpartum journey. So let's first start with a little bit of anatomy. So I have a pelvis model here. Whoops, falling apart. We're not falling apart, luckily. So this is a model of your pelvis. We have your pubic bone in the front, tailbone in the back. Just ignore the fly. This is the top of your pelvis, like when you put your hands up on your hips. That's your iliac crests, your lumbar spine, and your sacrum. These are ligaments that are helping stabilize your pelvis. Inside here, we have your bladder, uterus, and rectum. And then from the bottom, you have your clitoris, urethra, vagina, anus. All of this is pelvic floor muscle. So if you've heard of Kegel exercises before, basically that's a contraction of all of these pelvic floor muscles as a whole. When the muscles contract, they close off these 3 openings. You also have a deeper layer of pelvic floor muscles that sits more like a bowl, giving support to the bladder, uterus, and rectum. So there's where you can kind of see the bowl shape that these muscles take on inside the pelvis. I don't know why I have flies in my house because it's summertime. So your pelvic floor muscles are part of your core, along with your abdominals and your lower back and your diaphragm muscle, which sits right here at the base of your ribs below your lungs. Your diaphragm muscle is the muscle that assists with breathing. So as you inhale and your lungs fill up with air, your diaphragm muscle lowers, creating negative pressure to inflate your lungs. As you exhale, the diaphragm muscle rises back up. Well, guess what? Your pelvic floor muscles work in sync with that. So pelvic floor muscles here, diaphragm on top. As you inhale, those muscle groups lower, and then as you exhale, they rise back up. This happens naturally without you even thinking about it or noticing it. So let's talk about sitting posture. When you're sitting, hopefully you're sitting in a chair if you're feeding your baby, but you want to be sitting up on your sit bones. So these are the sit bones on your bottom surrounding the pelvic floor. So when you're sitting up, you need to be on your sit bones, not slumped back on your tailbone. So sitting up on your sit bones is going to look like this, not this. So on your sit bones, then you want to think about stacking your posture. So from your hips, straight up to your shoulders, and then up to your ears. So when your posture is stacked in that position, those 3 landmarks are in a straight vertical line. And that will help you keep a good posture when you're holding your baby, feeding your baby, instead of doing this. Because a lot of times we just kind of melt into this slump because we're tired and it's comfortable and all those things. But support your baby, support yourself. That's why I want you to be sitting in a chair or on the couch. That's even fine. But make sure you have some support, like a little pillow behind your lower back so you can lean your back against something and not have this tendency to just fall over into a slump. Okay, so standing posture should be something like this. When you are stacked and standing, you start from the bottom with your ankle bone. Stacked directly on top of your ankle should be your hip bone. So if you feel out here on the sides where that bony prominence is, and then your shoulder on top of the hip, ear on top of shoulder. So have someone take a picture of you standing from the side, just as you normally would stand, and then you can look at all of those landmarks and see if you're in a straight line. So good standing posture doesn't mean that you're stiff and straight with your booty tucked in. A lot of times postpartum, we have a posture where we're just kind of hinging on our hips, which I'm already kind of naturally doing because of this extra protrusion I have here. But once you've delivered your baby and you're trying to get your center of gravity back, oftentimes an easy fix for this tendency is to shift your thighs back. So just shift your thighs back a little bit, and then everything else should stack back on top. You also kind of want to pretend like you're tucking your ribs into your pockets. So your lower rib cage here should be pulled down like it's tucking into your pockets. So thighs back, ribs into your pockets. And that can be a quick fix for a posture that looks like this. Whenever you are needing to bend over to change your baby or pick something up from a low surface, instead of just hunching over like this and curling your spine, you want to do what's called a hip hinge. So a hip hinge is where you're taking your hips. So this is that ball and socket joint where your femur comes up from your leg and attaches into that joint. So whenever you move your leg in that ball and socket joint, the movement is coming from here. When you do a hip hinge, the movement is coming from that ball and socket joint. So a hip hinge is going to look like this, like you're tucking your pubic bone between your legs because your pelvis is moving with your spine. So instead of slumping and rounding your spine when you're doing things from a short distance, you want to do a hip hinge. Tuck your pubic bone between your knees, stick your booty out. It's okay to stick your booty out and hinge from the hips. So find a mirror where you can watch yourself. If you look at your shirt, do you see the wrinkles that are in my shirt? So when I flex my spine, those wrinkles flatten out. When I do a hip hinge, the wrinkles stay. So that's kind of how you can judge if you're doing it correctly. Also, as you're hinging forward, you're gonna get to a certain point where your hamstrings feel tight. That's how you know you're doing it correctly, because you're bending at the joint where your hamstrings attach. You don't have to keep your knees locked straight. You can bend them slightly too, just whatever's comfortable. But this is bending over the changing table, even washing your hands and brushing your teeth, doing this hip hinge, because it's really going to engage your glutes to do the work. Now, of course, if you have to pick something up from a lower surface, like the floor, then you're going to need to do a squat with that too. So many times we squat like this, again, tucking our booty in, but don't do that. Add your hip hinge with your squat. So your squat should look more like this, like you're sitting back in a chair. That black trunk is not a very good background. Let me stand over here so you can see. So the squat, you're bending from the hips and the knees like you're sitting in a chair. Let's go back to this diaphragm and pelvic floor relationship. So diaphragmatic breathing is when you're engaging this diaphragm muscle with your breath. So again, as you inhale, your diaphragm lowers. Exhale, it rises back up. An easy way to do this is to think of belly breathing. So as you inhale, your belly expands. As you exhale, belly comes back in. Mine doesn't come back in all the way because I'm pregnant right now. So another way that you can give yourself kind of some feedback is to use a band. So diaphragmatic breathing is also called 360 breathing or umbrella breathing, but it's where you're expanding your lower rib cage with that inhale. So as your rib cage expands, your diaphragm lowers with that. So you can take a band and put it just around your lower rib cage. You don't want to pull it super tight. This is just more for some proprioception to help you feel where that expansion is. So I just kind of have this snug around my rib cage, and as I inhale, I'm breathing into the band. Exhale. So breathing in. You can also use your hands, give yourself a little hug. Kind of put your hands around your lower rib cage and feel that too. I just like the band because you can feel it all the way around, because you want to breathe into your lower rib cage from the back also. So that's diaphragmatic breathing and sitting. This is a really good activity to practice when you find yourself just sitting around doing nothing, right? Because that never happens, I know. But it's a really good breathing exercise to work on. You can also do it when lying down. So when you're lying down, part of your rib cage is obviously fixed on the floor. So diaphragmatic breathing is going to look just a little bit more like belly breathing. So as you inhale, your belly rises. As you exhale, your belly falls. Inhale, belly rises. Exhale, belly falls. As I mentioned, your diaphragm and your pelvic floor muscles work in sync with one another. So as you inhale, those muscle groups are lowering. As you exhale, they're rising back up. And I know you're laying down, so it's like they're really moving horizontally now. But I want you to kind of visualize that as you're lying on your back, and as you inhale, naturally your pelvic floor muscles are dropping a little bit. And then as you exhale, they rise back up. So you can also think of it like, remember your sit bones on your bottom. So as you inhale, it's like your sit bones are separating. They're really not, they're fixed, but you can kind of visualize that as your pelvic floor muscles are descending and relaxing. Not doing anything forceful or trying to bulge through your pelvic floor, but you can think about inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. So, for the basics, and again, you can start these at any time postpartum, but especially before you start working through these mom bod videos, I want you to focus on diaphragmatic breathing, so the belly breathing, the 360 umbrella breathing, when you're sitting, standing, lying down. I'm gonna get some like fly traps after I finish this video. So diaphragmatic breathing, think about your posture, so stacking yourself when you're standing and sitting. And lastly, doing the hip hinging and squatting, doing that good combination whenever you are bending over to change your baby, pick up a car seat, any of those daily things that you're doing, maybe picking up a toddler, because that's going to be really important for protecting your spine and helping you start to engage the right muscles in your core as you're getting back in shape again. Maybe you have to pick up a 6-year-old too. So stay tuned for the next videos. We're going to go through 4 weeks of postpartum exercise to help you just feel your best and feel like you're ready to start back with your normal exercise activities, whatever those may be. Thank you. And also, I forgot to mention this because I got a little distracted, but if you have any questions or comments or anything related to this content, feel free to leave a message below, and I will respond to that for you. Thanks.
Hello, people. Okay, this may not seem what it seems, but I am the daughter of that woman who just did the other video. And that's why I would like to show you this. God. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. La, la. Hello, Freed. And my teeth look crooked. So it knows how imposter's feeling. It feels to like be real. I'm real. I live it for once. No.